The scariest part of gaslighting isn't the lying. It's that eventually you start doing their job for them. That's the part nobody explains properly. You'd think the danger is someone convincing you of something false. But that's not actually how it ends up working. What actually happens is you stop needing them to convince you at all. You start doubting yourself automatically, on your own, without them even being in the room. The word itself comes from a play written in 1938, later turned into a film in the 40s. A husband dims the gas lights in the house, just slightly, just enough to notice, and then denies it's happening at all when his wife brings it up. He tells her she's imagining things. He does it again and again. Small things, deniable things, spaced out just enough that she can never quite catch him in the act. By the end, she's convinced she's losing her mind, which was the actual goal the entire time, because a wife who doubts her own sanity doesn't fight back when her husband starts making decisions for her. That's the mechanism. Not one big lie, 100 small ones, engineered to make you distrust the one thing you actually need to survive, which is your own perception of what's real. Psychologists eventually took the word out of the movie and gave it a real clinical meaning, a form of manipulation that makes someone question their memories, their perceptions, even their sanity. And I think the reason it spread so fast once people learned it is because so many of us had already lived it without having the word for it. You can feel something is wrong for years and just call it being sensitive or dramatic or bad at communication, because that's what you were told you were. I dated someone for a while who had a specific move. I'd bring something up, something that hurt, something specific, and he wouldn't argue the point. He'd just calmly say, "That's not what happened," not angry, almost gentle about it, which somehow made it worse, because if he'd yelled, at least I'd have had something to push back against. Instead, I just had this quiet, reasonable voice telling me my own memory was wrong, over and over, until I genuinely stopped trusting it. I needed to believe I was the problem, because the alternative was worse. If I was too sensitive, too dramatic, too much, then there was something I could fix. I could get better, be less, adjust myself until the friction went away. But if he was actually doing something wrong on purpose, then I was in a relationship with someone who needed me confused in order to stay in control, and that was a much scarier thing to sit with than just believing I needed to toughen up. So I went looking for proof I was the problem. I started keeping a mental list of my own overreactions, actually cataloguing my flaws like evidence for a case I was building against myself. I asked friends if I was being crazy, phrasing it exactly like that. Are I being crazy? Instead of describing what actually happened and asking what they thought. And here's the thing that finally cracked it open for me. One night I actually wrote down on paper, exactly what he'd said had never happened. And a week later he brought up the same event casually, in passing, like it was just a fact of our history. He wasn't even lying carefully anymore. He'd said it so many times he'd started believing his own version, or he just didn't think I'd ever check. I had it on paper, in my own handwriting from the night it happened, before any of the denying started. And reading my own words back was the first time in months I felt something besides confusion. I felt certain, not vindicated exactly, just solid, like ground appearing under my feet after a long time of not knowing there wasn't any. If you've ever written something down just to prove to yourself later that you weren't imagining it, I want to know. Not the relationship, not the details, just whether you've done that specific thing, kept quiet evidence for a case you hoped you'd never have to make. Because I think a lot of people have done it and never told anyone, and I think hearing that you're not the only one who needed proof of your own reality might matter more than anything else in this video. It ended, eventually, the way these things usually do, quietly and later, than it should have. And I wish I could tell you the return was clean, that I walked away trusting myself completely again. It wasn't like that. For a long time afterward, I second-guessed normal disagreements with normal people, because my instincts had been trained to distrust themselves. That doesn't undo overnight. But here's what did change, permanently, and this is the part I actually believe. I stopped assuming confusion meant I was the confused one. Now when something feels off, and someone insists it isn't, I don't immediately start building a case against myself. I get curious instead. I ask more questions. I write things down, not out of paranoia, just because I learned the hard way that my own memory deserves to be taken seriously, even by me. That's the actual damage gaslighting does, and it's also the actual way out of it. It doesn't just make you doubt one relationship. It teaches you to distrust your own witness of your own life. And getting that back isn't about winning an argument with the person who did it to you. It's about believing yourself again, on your own, without needing anyone else's permission to know what you saw.